Hi, I'm Wendy, and the purpose of today's video is simply to give you a bunch of whole food plant-based meal ideas. I'm calling it What I Eat in a Week, but I'm actually going to show you what I ate over a couple of different weeks so you can see how each week I use the same basic ingredients to make multiple different types of meals. Right now, I'm getting produce from a CSA, which I've talked about many times on the channel before, but briefly, if you're not familiar, CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture. So I paid a farmer in the springtime, and now I've been getting fresh produce each week throughout the summer. So the first week I'm going to show you, here's what I got. There's some parsley and basil, a cantaloupe, romaine lettuce, tomatoes, onions, garlic, eggplant, summer squash, cherry tomatoes, and shishito peppers. That week, in addition to our regular box of veggies, we also opted to buy some extra tomatoes because they had an abundance, so they were selling them at a reduced price to their CSA members. Look at these beauties! So first up, I took the fresh herbs and made a quick pesto. My pestos are really simple. For this one, I just used some walnuts, the parsley and basil, and I usually like to do a combination of both lemon juice as well as a little bit of balsamic vinegar, just because I love it so much. Depending on what I have on hand, I'll also throw in a little garlic or granulated garlic, and sometimes I also add some nutritional yeast in there. And then I save this pesto to use in a meal I had with my parents. I go over and eat a couple meals with them every weekend, and that weekend we made pizza. So we used a homemade SOS-free pizza crust recipe from Well Your World. I'll link to their recipe down below. And then we blended a block of tofu with the pesto and used that instead of a red sauce. Then we topped it with slices of those gorgeous tomatoes. We added some sliced red onion and then baked it. This recipe was absolutely scrumptious. And I think no matter what tomatoes you use, it would still be good, but with these fresh, peak season local tomatoes, it was absolutely divine. We had that along with a little salad and some potato wedges. Now, that was a bit of a fancier meal than I normally cook for myself, but when I'm with my mom, we like to make up new recipes together. But next, I have a more typical, quick meal that I would make for myself on a work day. With the romaine lettuce and tomatoes from my CSA, I made a big salad and added some cucumbers, peppers, and red onions from the grocery store, along with some black beans and sunflower seeds on top. I didn't even make a real dressing for this one, but just used some balsamic vinegar. I had that along with some cantaloupe from the CSA, as well as a little bit of watermelon. And then up in the left-hand corner is a quick little brownie I whipped up using some oats, carob powder, and I think I used sweet potato on that one as well. I wrote down what I did, but I might tweak it a little bit before I share that one with you. Then I didn't take a picture of my actual meal, but this was a little side salad that I had with some lentil soup. This was just one of those yellow tomatoes with some fresh herbs and red onion, again mixed with some balsamic vinegar. So simple and so delicious. Then with some more of the tomatoes and eggplant from the CSA, I made a recipe that was my mom's concoction. I started by sauteing the eggplant with some red onion in a dry pan. You don't need to add oil to your pan to cook your veggies. If anything ever starts to stick, you simply add a couple splashes of water, which will deglaze the pan and unstick anything. And as you can see, as I continue cooking, it got a nice caramelized color on it. Once it was nice and brown, I set the eggplant aside and cooked the tomatoes down into a sauce. I added some spices and then returned the eggplant to the pan. By the way, I will link a blog post down below that has all of these recipes. Of course, all of these are very loose recipes because we just like to throw things together when we cook. And then I ate this with some leftovers I had in the fridge. I had some cooked whole grains that I topped with black beans, and on the bottom half of the plate, this is some cabbage that I had sauteed. I added the tomato eggplant mixture on top of the beans and grains, and that was my meal. It doesn't look like much, but it was really satisfying and delicious. Next up, I have another salad made with mostly all the same ingredients as the first one I showed you from a couple days ago. But this time I used kidney beans and I made a tahini dressing. I also had some sweet potato fries with it, but they weren't done cooking until I was almost halfway done with the salad. Then here's another CSA haul. I've got potatoes, garlic, tons more eggplant, banana peppers, tomatoes, cabbage, leeks, shishito peppers, cantaloupe, and watermelon. A couple weeks ago, I showed what I did with the shishito and banana peppers. I pickled them, and I also like to just eat the shishitos blistered in a dry skillet or raw dipped in hummus. Then here's that cute little watermelon. It was so adorable. Then I made this sort of ratatouille-inspired recipe with the eggplant and tomatoes from that week, plus some yellow squash that I had left over from the prior week. I was feeling fancy, so I tried to make it look all pretty in the pie plate, but then I just threw everything that was left over into another dish. Once I had arranged everything, I simply poured over a mixture of red wine vinegar with fresh garlic and some dried herbs. Then I baked it until the veggies were soft, and this one smelled so good. I simply served this over a mixture of whole grains and had it along with a side salad. On another day, I made these tostadas. Underneath all the veggies, I made sort of like refried beans, but I made it with lentils. And then that's topped with some purple cabbage, red onions, tomatoes, my vegan cheesy sauce, and some of my pickled peppers. The next day, I basically had the same thing, but just in a different form. Instead of tostadas, I made chips, and I dipped it in the lentil refried beans and cheesy sauce, and then I just have a pile of veggies there, including onions, peppers, and tomatoes. I had that along with some cantaloupe and grapes and a cabbage salad. Once again, you can check out the blog post linked below for more details. And then whenever I have tons of leftover veggies, I usually make a stir fry, which is what I have here. So this has leftovers of the cabbage, peppers, eggplant, leeks, tomatoes, and onions from my CSA. I just threw it all in a pan and sauteed it and then added a can of kidney beans. I simply used some soy sauce and rice vinegar to flavor it up. And then again, I served it over as more mixed whole grains. I'll link to a video where I show a mixture of whole grains that I love to make. And then here's one more week that I'll show you in today's video. I got more tomatoes, leeks, lettuce, green onions, garlic, more eggplant, more shishitos and basil, and the first green beans we got for the year. These were absolutely beautiful green beans. And with those green beans, I have another meal I made with my mom. We made an easy vegan macaroni and cheese. We simply took some whole wheat pasta and mixed it with my vegan cheesy sauce. It's the same base recipe from my rotel dip, just minus the rotel. I'll put a link for that one as well. Normally, I would be all over the macaroni and cheese, but the star of this meal was actually those green beans. It was so delicious. We simply steamed the green beans and mixed them with some red onion, garlic, tomatoes, fresh basil, and then we dressed it with some tahini and balsamic vinegar. Then once again, I have another quick meal that I made simply by mixing together a bunch of veggies that were left over, including tomatoes, onions, peppers, and some of my pickled peppers. And I have that along with my taco lentils and some frozen hash brown potatoes that I simply cooked in my toaster oven and then topped it all with my cheesy sauce. Next up, I made some pasta, again using leftover veggies. I had a little bit of this salad dressing left over as well. I had made it with cashews, basil, parsley, and red wine vinegar, and I had been using it as a salad dressing but decided to use the leftovers as a sauce for my pasta. I also have a little bit of leftover red onion and tomatoes chopped up. I cooked my pasta and steamed some more green beans and then simply dumped everything together. I topped the pasta with some vegan Parmesan that's simply made with hemp seeds, sunflower seeds, nutritional yeast, and garlic and onion powder all blended together. I had that along with another cabbage salad. And then a couple other miscellaneous meals that week. I had also bought some broccoli from the store. I chopped up the stems and sauteed them with red onions. I added a za'atar seasoning blend and added a little bit of tahini and red wine vinegar. This was surprisingly delicious. I ate this as a side dish with several different meals. And then here I just have another salad, again using all of the veggies from my CSA. Some lettuce, tomatoes, those green beans, and I always love to add red onion. This salad also has some goji berries and sunflower seeds. Once again, it's simply dressed with balsamic vinegar. And finally that week, I made some chili and cornbread. For the chili, I used up some leftover peppers that I had from a previous CSA week. And then of course, lots of chili powder, cumin, paprika, garlic and onion powder. And I also threw a jalapeno in this one. Perhaps one of these days I'll make an actual recipe, and then I'll do a video showing you both the cornbread and the chili recipe. But for now, that's all I have for this video. Feel free to like and subscribe, and as always, leave your comments below. I love hearing what you have to say. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.